Cops tipped off about farm by strange man, appalled by what he hid in the basement. Kris Westerbeig was the proprietor of Cafe De Kastelein in Ruinerwold, a very small rural Dutch village. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone. On the 19th of October 2019, Kris was preparing to close up for the night when a mysterious figure appeared in the doorway. It was unusual for someone she didn't know to show up this late. The man was unkempt and seemed dazed and confused, and wore ripped and stained clothes. His erratic behavior was starting to disturb other customers as he drank his fifth beer. As Kris went to close up, she asked the man to leave. He then came back, and this time she demanded to know who he was and where he came from. He drank 5 beers and was reduced to tears as he told her his chilling tale of what was hiding in his basement and the horrors of what had happened there. Kris called the cops the second he finished telling his story. Ruinerwold, a tiny rural village in the Netherlands, was the backdrop for this eerie visitation at Cafe De Kastelein. Ruinerwold was inhabited by less than 3,000 people and was a very close-knit community. According to the mayor of Ruinerwold, it was the sort of place where everyone looked out for one another. This is why it was so disturbing to the residents of Ruinerwold when it was discovered what happened on the farm. Locals around Ruinerwold had been aware of the large farmhouse on the outskirts of the village for years, but no one seemed to have ever met the people who lived there. Most people assumed it was abandoned. Those who got a closer look claimed it was boarded up and the perimeter was obscured by high fences and trees. However, some neighbors later claimed to have seen strange activity on the property. Some neighbors had claimed to have seen a lone man on the property from time to time. He appeared to be doing maintenance on the house. He visited the property regularly, but aside from a dog and a few geese, no one in Ruinerwold had seen any trace of any other person at the mysterious farmhouse. That was until October 19th, 2019, when a mysterious stranger showed up in Ruinerwold. On the 19th of October 2019, Kris Westerbeig was working behind the bar in Cafe De Kastelein, a small bar and restaurant that she ran. It was the only place to get a drink or a meal in Ruinerwold, and she knew pretty much everyone who frequented the bar. That was all about to change when a disheveled, mysterious stranger showed up, unannounced, and started to make the customers feel uncomfortable with his strange presence. It was almost closing time at Cafe De Kastelein, and Kris Westerbeig was about to call for last orders when he appeared in the doorway. A mysterious, disheveled, and confused-looking man crept into the bar and stared everyone down. Kris eyed him warily. She knew everyone in Ruinerwold, but not this man. What brought this stranger into her peaceful little village at this hour of the night? When he began to intimidate the customers, that's when she knew something was seriously off. The man ordered 5 beers and drank them in the space of 20 minutes. Kris watched him like a hawk as he twitched and surveyed everyone with a wild, paranoid expression. When it was time to close, Kris asked the man to leave, which he did. As she was mopping the floor, she saw him reappear, banging on her window. She felt her heart race. Was he going to harm her? She decided to let him in and see what he had to say. Kris let the man back in on the condition he told her who he was and what was going on. He drank 5 beers as he poured his heart out to the bar owner about his life up until this point. He claimed that he and his 5 siblings had been living trapped inside the mysterious farmhouse for over half their lives. He said he couldn't live this way anymore and wanted their freedom from the horrors that had been seen in that basement. As soon as he finished telling his story, Kris knew she had to get the police to investigate. She couldn't be sure if what the man was telling her was true, but there had long been whispers about that farmhouse. The local postman always mentioned how he'd never delivered one letter there. Kris promised to help the distraught and confused man, who indeed looked like he hadn't been to a barber or gotten new clothes in years. The secret of the horrors that lay inside that basement were about to be revealed. When police went to search the mysterious farmhouse that the scruffy man had tipped them off about, initially they didn't find anything suspicious. However, on a second search, they discovered everything. Behind an unassuming, boarded-up entrance was a staircase descending down into the basement. It was here that police found 6 adults, aged between 18 and 58. The 58-year-old was presumed to be the father, and the rest were siblings. Their living quarters were appallingly disgusting, and their lack of bathing facilities had caused one of the sons to develop a massive, untreated growth out of his head. When the other kids were finally rescued from the house, they were all in a dreadful state, both physically and emotionally. One of the sons claimed he had never bathed once in his life, and his hair had developed into a heavy and solid lump of something that used to be hair. He didn't even have anything to cut it off, as it gathered bacteria over the years. The real question was, why did this happen to all these adults right under the noses of the residents of Ruinerwold? The father was to blame for his abusive behavior. It turned out that the father had lost his mind many years ago and had moved his young family from a nearby city to the farmhouse. He'd believed the end of days were coming, and he'd locked his whole family away to shelter them from this. Some of the siblings had been born in the basement and had never seen the light of day. The mother was said to have died there and was buried somewhere on the grounds. The father was later arrested for deprivation of liberty and was jailed. His children were left with the painful and difficult task of integrating into a world that they didn't even believe was out there, let alone understood.